The sound of labored breathing, distant cries, and the frantic stares of those left in the classroom fixed on the doors, I said softly, scanning the room.
Let's move slowly and see if anything reacts. Keep an eye on both the front and back doors.
Adults, who now looked like high school students, trembled as they staggered back from the doors. Among those who had awakened in this classroom, half had fled, their fates unknown. The other half remained, or rather, they were too paralyzed to move. This is a disaster. I shouldn't have stayed still at the start. Before the curtains closed, plunging us into total darkness, I should have sprinted out alone, grabbed an emergency flashlight, and settled into a good hiding spot. I missed my chance. I had hesitated, panicked by the realization that Braun wasn't here. By now, a few people were starting to catch on to the situation.
This is just like that thing.
You don't know? The kind of monster that can't move while you're watching.
Wait, you mean you've seen this before?
Hey, why don't you get it? It's like that monster that follows you when you're not looking. As long as we're looking at it, it can't move.
The voice of the person speaking was distorted by fear and excitement as they rambled on, asking if everyone had read some weird text file, suggesting we were inside a game, or wondering if this was possession. Normally, people would have ignored such wild claims, but in their panic, they listened intently. This was a progression I'd seen countless times before, and the conclusion reached by a fear-stricken group is always simplistic and extreme.
In that case, we should just attack it, destroy it.
If we try to run, it'll just keep chasing us, no matter what. Didn't you see what happened to the people who left? They all died. Hurry, before the lights flicker again.
As if hypnotized, people started scouring the empty classroom for anything that could be used as a weapon. Brooms, chairs, mops, box cutters. This was a shortcut to the most typical bad ending.
Wait a moment, please.
Just then, someone covered my mouth. I nearly threw a punch out of reflex. Forcing myself to remain calm, I slowly turned my head to see who had silenced me. Our eyes met. It was a familiar face. It was an agent from the Disaster Management Bureau. Agent Ryu Jaquan, whom I'd encountered at the mountain lodge. His hair was now cropped short like a high school student's, but his features were unmistakably the same. Where had he been sitting all this time? No, that wasn't the issue here. Right, even civil servants can end up here too. This wasn't one of Daydream Inc.'s secured and contained ghost stories. That meant it wasn't impossible to encounter someone from another agency in a place. But still, running into the same agent again? Wasn't he working way too hard?
If you don't scream, I'll let you go.
I quickly nodded with a serious expression, and the agent released me without further comment.
You really do have a knack for getting caught up in situations, don't you?
Let's just leave it at that.
And some of what that person said earlier is correct. Keep your eyes on that student mannequin at all times. Don't look away, and make sure you blink alternately. If the lights go out, immediately lower your head. Also,
The agent leaned in and whispered the proper protocol, clearly well-versed in handling this kind of situation.
they're very sensitive to sound.
These students were strongly drawn to people who screamed, cursed, or shouted.
Under no circumstances should you raise your voice. Ever. But is it really okay to just let them attack that thing? Right now, your own safety is the priority. Rescuing others caught in this disaster comes second. When dealing with a supernatural disaster, assume everyone involved will die and act accordingly.
The agent delivered the line with practiced precision. This was textbook Disaster Management Bureau protocol. They prioritize identifying, sealing, or destroying the ghost story to prevent further casualties. It was a utilitarian judgment, akin to pulling the lever in the trolley dilemma without hesitation, choosing to sacrifice one life to save 5.
I'll let you know when it's time to run. For now, just follow the instructions I've given you.
Arguing with the agent here would be suicidal. For now, I kept my mouth shut. Meanwhile, the others were already armed and approaching the student mannequin. I deliberately asked another question to guide the agent's response. I needed to know more to make my actions seem natural going forward.
But, isn't this a dream? If that's the case, wouldn't we just wake up even if we die here?
That was the classic escape method from a nightmare. At the moment of death in the dream, you wake up and return to reality. Hearing that, one might think that quickly taking your own life is the best option, but that's completely wrong. Such a choice should never be made, There's something you need.
That's correct, but there are conditions. Yes. Do you see that name tag?
The agent pointed to the student mannequin.
You must die while in possession of that mannequin's name tag to wake up properly. If you fail to meet this condition, you will suffer undesirable effects.
If the escape conditions are not fulfilled, the explorer becomes trapped in the shadow of darkness. There are also a few other conditions for dying safely, but I'll explain them as we go. However, the agent, perhaps interpreting my hesitation differently, gave me a look as if to say, "Don't feel bad about it." It was an awkward attempt to reassure me with a forced smile.
Don't worry. There are many agents deployed here besides me. Someone will surely make it through.
More than one Disaster Management Bureau agent? This really must be an overlap in exploration timing. There must have been a relevant entry in the exploration logs. I tried to sift through past records in my mind, but before I could identify any, the situation shifted. The others finally began attacking the student mannequin. The Sekwang Technical High School student bled, as though they were an ordinary human. The sound of bones breaking, blood spilling, and bruises forming echoed around the room.
Huh, what do we do? Oh shit!
Fear and unease ran down my spine. However, the agent, calm as if this was routine, gestured discreetly toward the front door.
For now, we should use this distraction to,
That's when it happened. Figures appeared on the brightly lit central staircase visible through the open front door. 3 or 4 figures moved quietly, their footsteps muffled as they ascended. They shared a common feature. Each of them wore strange animal masks. What's more, I recognized one of the masks. It was the rookie from the Y Squad, with whom I'd endured the theme park ghost story. Did he get reassigned to a regular squad? It had been a while. My recent chaos had kept me too busy to track other people's transfers, but it seemed he'd survived his first 3 months unscathed. At least that's good news. Did they wake up in the same class? Both were faithfully following the company's safety recommendation to wear your mask whenever possible. I'd like to wear mine too, if I could. I wanted to check my items and use them to improve my chances of escape. Overall, it seemed the best course of action would be to separate naturally from the agent and join that group.
be careful. If you encounter someone in animal masks and business suits in a place, never acknowledge them. They're likely dispatched from that disgusting pseudo-corporation. Avoid any involvement with them at all costs. The majority of their employees are unethical psychopaths. You must be cautious.
The agent gritted his teeth and cast a disdainful glare toward the group. Don't let him find out who I am. A brightly lit classroom within the ghost story. Behind me, people were desperately striking at the unmoving, eerie student.
Let's wait until they pass by.
In front of me, the government agent glared at my fellow company employees walking by, his gaze a mix of wariness and disdain. And stuck in between them, no colleagues, missed timing, and the task of clearing this nightmare of a ghost story safely while pretending to be an innocent civilian to the agent beside me. The truth? I'm actually from the pharmaceutical company this agent loathes. How much harder can this get? The employees had moved far ahead by now. I might have made eye contact with a few of them, but as I avoided their gaze, they refrained from approaching me and walked off quickly. At least that was a relief. The lights went out again. This time, however, people reacted faster than the incoming darkness.
It's not moving.
I took a deep breath. When the lights flickered back on, the Sekwang Technical High School student, who had been frozen like a statue, was now lying on the floor near the back door. The frenzied attacks had evidently worked. This time, even when the lights went out, the student couldn't move. Instead, it appeared to have succumbed to the accumulated violence and now lay on the floor as though dead. However, its outstretched right hand still reached toward the back door, as if trying to grab hold of it.
It worked. This is it.
The people cheered in triumph, holding bloodied mops and chairs in their hands. When one student entity becomes immobilized, resembling biological death, all nearby student entities are summoned to the scene.
A death has occurred in Class 1-5.
The school's announcement played over the intercom. The voice was heavier this time, somber. A slow funeral march played in the background. The agent poked me in the back.
The deceased is first-year student Lee Wanyul.
I immediately bolted out the door. I tried to take in as much of the hallway's layout as possible while running. noting key details and pressing myself close to a nearby wall to minimize my profile.
Should we press our backs to the wall?
Let us observe a moment of silence for 5 seconds.
I complied without resistance as the agent pushed me to sit against the wall. Through the faint sound of the funeral march came the creak of the back door opening. Short, desperate screams. The funeral march continued.
The moment of silence is over. May the deceased rest in peace.
Forcing my trembling head up, I looked back into the classroom. As the lights returned, the scene came into focus. The classroom was a wreck, smeared with blood and filth. Bodies were strewn everywhere, slammed against walls, collapsed on the floor, or sprawled across desks. And among the carnage, only 2 figures remained standing. 2 Sekwang Technical High School students frozen by my gaze. One stood atop a decapitated corpse, while the other smiled as it clutched the front door, staring at me. Sweat dripped down my chin.
I'll step back, just slightly. I'll continue to stay in view of the classroom.
The agent gave a slight nod. Still keeping my eyes on the front, I groped along the wall, retreating cautiously. The reason I'd chosen this wall,
Portable light source.
a red emergency flashlight, was mounted nearby. It was an essential tool, a portable light source capable of freezing the students even during a blackout. Absolutely necessary. However, where 3 lights should have been mounted, only 1 remained. The employees must have taken the others. What surprised me was that, even with Baek Sahyun among their group, they hadn't taken all 3 lights for backup. On top of that, they'd cleverly inserted a wad of paper into the release sensor to prevent the alarm from sounding when the lights were removed. Clearly, these were experienced ghost story explorers. They had even left behind one of the crumpled papers in the empty slot. They thought that far ahead. Reaching back, I grabbed the paper. As I brought it forward, the folded back of the paper caught the edge of my vision. I crumpled Baek Sahyun's note, shoved it into the sensor slot as a makeshift stopper, and extracted the flashlight. With this, I had taken the first step in preparing for potential blackouts.
Did you grab the flashlight?
Excellent. Keep it on at all times. Now let's retrieve the name tags.
The agent strode briskly toward the classroom's front door, right up to the face of the student entity that was glaring at me. Just watching the scene made every alarm in my head scream. Yet the agent moved swiftly and tore the name tag from the mannequin's chest. Then, without hesitation, he collected the tag from the entity lying by the back door. The first one, to die. I could feel my stomach churn. This is an irreversible move. When a student's name tag is stolen in its presence, that student will pursue the thief relentlessly until you die.
It worked. This is it.
Given that the students had already locked eyes with us, perhaps it was a foregone conclusion. No matter what, they'll chase us. Even with a flashlight, moving through this haunted school while being hunted by 2 entities was sheer madness for an ordinary person. It was a choice only a disaster management bureau agent, equipped with tools and experience, could reasonably make. Still, I would have done it differently. But spilled milk is spilled milk. Thinking rationally, I had to admit, being discovered by the agent was far riskier than dying within this nightmare. Not only would death here be just an unfortunate side note, but I'd likely face interrogation and an investigation. I have no choice but to trust the agent's judgment for now. If I'm going to act, it needs to be now. As the agent moved, I followed him into the classroom. I reached toward the student by the back door and snatched their name tag. This was nerve-wracking. The unmoving student, frozen in place, seemed ready to whip around and crush my skull at any moment. But nothing happened, and I succeeded. As my hand trembled with a mix of relief and revulsion, I heard something. The student entity appeared to be stepping on a severed neck, but there was more. Beneath them, someone was still alive. Tears streamed down the face of the survivor, who whispered weakly, as though they lacked the strength to scream or curse. After a brief but fierce internal debate, I made my decision.
Hick, sub, okay.
I couldn't be sure since my gaze was fixed on the student entity, but it seemed like the person beneath them gave a faint nod. Slowly, I backed away and rejoined the agent. Together, we exited the classroom and began moving swiftly down the corridor.
Keep looking ahead. I'll keep an eye on the classroom.
The agent turned on his flashlight, focusing on the back of the entity that had been watching us from the front door. Meanwhile, I kept my eyes on the corridor, ready to freeze any new entities that might appear. We hugged the wall as we moved, ensuring no blind spots for either of us. Our movements were silent yet desperate. Finally, as the classroom faded from view, and I was certain one of the two entities was no longer visible, the agent muttered in confusion.
Why aren't they chasing us? Don't tell me.
A ripple of unease emanated from the agent's back, pressed against mine.
Was there someone alive in the room? Are they watching the students?
The agent exhaled deeply.
They must have been too injured to move. You did well. During a disaster, securing your own safety comes first. Helping others comes after. Head for the staircase. We'll stop briefly by the fire hydrant.
The lights went out again.
I'm shining the flashlight.
I kept moving forward, and that's when it hit me. During the blackout just now, the person I'd given the name tag to had died. The two entities would be leaving the classroom now, but since my job was to watch the front and freeze anything new that appeared, I couldn't look back to confirm it. The thought alone made my hair stand on end.
Do not panic. You still have a chance. You obtained a name tag earlier, correct? Good. Now, you just need to commit suicide. Let's do it as soon as we stop by the emergency light. You look so pale. It'd be best for you to wake from this nightmare quickly. With the name tag, there shouldn't be any issues.
But there's something.
I did acquire a name tag, but I no longer have it in my possession. I gave it to the person who was alive in the classroom.
Earlier, I deliberately dropped the name tag on the floor, so the person beneath the student could grab it.
If you hold on to this, you'll wake up from this dream.
Hick, sob. Oh, okay.
Since they have the name tag, they'll wake up safely.
The agent let out a sharp breath, heavy with frustration and stress. Then, in a more fatigued and businesslike tone, he spoke.
You must have assumed I had a spare name tag. No, you don't need to give me one. That's something you obtained yourself. You need more name tags, don't you? You'll likely need to distribute them to your colleagues.
I wasn't saying this because I was a fool with no plan. Because I never intended to acquire a name tag and commit suicide in the first place.
Exploration Record 13.
The log I had used as the basis for my escape plan, the wiki entry I had written, was the record of an explorer who had never obtained a name tag to begin with. I had analyzed this ghost story extensively, thinking through its variables, and had come to one conclusion. To clear this without physically dying, you need to perform a specific action without possessing a name tag. Moreover, this method allowed you to bring back the highest grade Dream Essence solution as a reward. So I have to do it. The D Squad, or rather, my new squad, needed proof that I could maintain similar levels of performance even under unfamiliar circumstances.
Do you know what happens if you die without a name tag? Each new moon, you'll be dragged back here when you sleep. And when you wake up, you won't remember anything, making it impossible to prepare. Can you handle that?
I probably couldn't, but I didn't have much choice. Ideally, carrying the name tag until the critical moment and then relinquishing ownership would be the safest strategy. But with this agent as my companion, there was no way I could obtain a name tag and later abandon it. So instead, I chose to take the risk and give it away. Even if there were, I'd give it up again. At least as long as I was traveling with this agent.
And I'll handle that opportunity myself. Don't worry, I won't ask you for anything.
At this point, it was worth trying. I decided to push forward with a determined tone.
We should part ways here. If you need it, I'll even give you my flashlight.
I brought a high-powered flashlight anyway, along with several other tools. As long as I separated from him, I could stop pretending to be a civilian and use them. Separation was the key. Though walking alone would be terrifying, staying in this restrained state wasn't viable either. Whether it was with civilians or my coworkers, any other group would be better. I need to join a larger group. This ghost story's structure made it safer the more eyes were watching, but it grew riskier the louder things got. I need to form a party of around 4 people quickly. With my connection to Daydream Inc. posing a constant threat, traveling with this agent wasn't an option. I needed a scenario where I could act more decisively. I'll pretend to give in and suggest parting ways.
I feel like I'm just getting in your way. I'll figure things out on my own, somehow.
After all, didn't you say civilians caught in disasters are as good as dead? Consider this an unavoidable situation and move on. But then, an unexpected response came.
I believe apologies are in order.
The agent looked at me with a resolute expression, as if he'd made an unshakable decision.
As soon as you obtained the name tag, I was planning to humanely execute you.
Even if you wake up after dying, to say something like that so casually, right to someone's face. Feeling cold sweat trickling down my back, I forced a smile.
Ah, yes. Even in a dream, suicide isn't exactly an easy thing to do.
Indeed. However, if you're willing, I'd like you to accompany me for the remainder of this disaster investigation.
The agent spoke quickly.
Temporarily, you could act as an agent. Normally, this would require approval from another agent since it isn't a solo mission. But
The agent rummaged through his pocket and handed me something.
if you consume this, it will serve as an expedited authorization.
I looked at the small caramel candy, wrapped in a rectangular foil, that had landed in my hand and felt my eyelids twitch. This was Disaster Management Bureau equipment.
A caramel-like chewy candy. Upon consumption, lying induces unbearable discomfort, compelling the user to tell the truth.
This is a light truth verification procedure.
No, this is practically a confession-inducing torture tool.
If you take this and accompany me, you'll be compensated accordingly. If it's too difficult, I'll simply give you a name tag and execute you to send you back.
If only I could fake eating it and stash it in my tattoo. But in this dream where I'd fully reverted to a high schooler, I had no tattoos. After an intense internal debate, I made my decision. I reluctantly chewed and swallowed the truth-inducing candy. Its tangy sweet flavor caught in my throat, but I forced it down. Getting caught, throwing it away, or not consuming it would be a bigger problem. It would reveal that I knew exactly what this candy was. But as they say, the stick is often accompanied by the carrot. To my surprise, the unexpected carrot started rolling in.
Well done. Now take this.
The agent swiftly handed me something else, placing it in my empty hand. It was a metallic badge vaguely resembling a silver heart.
This is an identification badge for agents. Wearing it will allow you to receive assistance if you encounter other agents.
No sooner had I clipped the badge on than a small ivory-colored pistol was placed in my hand. The translucent cylinder gleamed with multicolored glass beads that served as its ammunition. It looked extraordinary at a glance.
A specialized exorcism pistol manufactured by the Disaster Management Bureau. It uses custom glass beads as ammunition and is so compact it resembles a toy or lighter.
This is a weapon for dealing with supernatural disasters. It should be effective against those student. Keep it with you.
This was the standard issue gear for Disaster Management Bureau agents, the kind I'd only ever seen on the wiki. Like the Dream Essence collectors and masks used by Daydream Inc., this was iconic agent gear. And now I'm wearing it all. Somehow, I'd ended up playing the part of a Disaster Management Bureau agent. What is even happening? It was absurd, but oddly thrilling. At the same time, I had a strong urge to run for my life. There's no time to dwell on this.
We're almost at the end of the hallway. From here on, you must also face this way. Do not, under any circumstances, drop the flashlight.
I adjusted my grip on the unfamiliar pistol. The agent and I pressed our backs against the wall, our gazes fixed on the hallway ahead, specifically Class 1-5, from which we had just escaped. Then, I finally saw it. On the far end of the hallway, mannequin-like figures appeared. Another one had joined the group. 2 male students and 1 female student. The 2 who had emerged from the classroom were drenched in blood, smiling as they looked our way, while the third, still wearing a pristine school uniform, stood motionless. When the lights were on, they looked like grotesquely realistic wax mannequins or people frozen in time in a photograph. They reappeared closer to us. Even when we moved further back, they advanced just to the edge of the flashlight's beam. Whenever the light shone on them, they froze, illuminated in a terrifyingly close pose. They never got any farther away. I couldn't help but imagine what would happen if the flashlight's battery ran out. This standoff would end. And not in our favor. Even as I moved carefully and deliberately, fear clawed at my mind. Eventually, we reached the dead end at the hallway's farthest point, and were forced to stop.
A death has occurred in Class 3-2. The deceased is third-year student Park Chea. Please observe a moment of silence for 5 seconds.
I gripped the flashlight tightly and pressed my back against the wall. I quickly swept the flashlight across all 3 figures. Each time the light passed over them and returned, They were closer. The agent and I divided our focus, aiming our flashlights at two of the entities. But what about the third? The third one? Where was it? I swung my flashlight side to side, covering every blind spot, but it was nowhere to be found. Time seemed to speed up with my mounting anxiety. Where? Where could it be? Where? I whipped the flashlight downward. The light revealed my feet and a blood-stained white hand reaching for my ankle. A hand in a school uniform. A Sekwang Technical High School student lay sprawled on the floor, grinning up at me.
The moment of silence is over. May the deceased rest in peace.
Slowly, I pulled my foot back. If my reflexes had been even slightly slower, I'd be dead. Oh, I've never even played a VR horror game, and now I'm experiencing this in real life. I alternated blinking one eye at a time, making sure to never close both at once as I slowly backpedaled. My limbs trembled uncontrollably. The agent, still glaring at the remaining two student entities, spoke.
Once we leave a floor, the students from that grade level usually stop actively pursuing us.
If there were still prey left on their floor, the students would likely prioritize those over us.
Let's head upstairs.
Not down to the first floor.
No, this mission's objective is the 5th floor, specifically the auditorium.
Immediately, I recalled the announcement we'd heard at the very beginning.
Students of Sekwang Technical High School. The graduation ceremony will begin shortly. Please gather in the auditorium.
What's in the auditorium?
There's no information yet. That's why we need to investigate.
The exploration logs so far are still considered early to mid-stage material in the something unknown. Few people would have willingly gone to the place announced as the meeting point in this nightmare school. And those who tried to ascend likely encountered the students and died. The higher the floor, the more aggressive, unpredictable, and intelligent the students' behavior became. And the greater problem was this.
Never go to the 5th floor. It's better to die on the lower floors. Never go up. Final log of exploration record 12.
This is what happens when you somehow manage to make it all the way to the 5th floor. I really don't want to go. But the most painful part was knowing that I'd have to go there eventually, regardless. At least I could take some comfort in having a companion. But as we wouldn't make it. I needed to prepare thoroughly, and I had an idea to adjust the plan slightly.
Would it be all right if we stopped briefly to explore the 3rd and 4th floors as well?
Well, this setup feels strangely like a horror game to me.
In games, obtaining key items is often essential to progress.
I spoke while slowly climbing the stairs backward.
I'm not sure, but if it were me, I'd start by checking special rooms, like the music room, science lab, or faculty office. I'd also look into the yearbook or student records. I think there could be hints or keys hidden in objects or props.
As we continued up the stairs, the distance between us and the student that had been surrounding us grew, allowing the flashlight beam to cover a wider area and keep them in check. It was only then that the agent finally spoke.
Our analysis team reached a similar conclusion, that this ghost story seems to have a game-based structure. They noted how the name of the fictional high school and the structure of running and hiding from monsters are remarkably similar to a game.
I thought the same thing.
But it's the first time I've heard such a suggestion, to focus not on monsters or people, but on objects.
For some reason, the agent's eyes seemed to sparkle. Since he looked like a high school student without dark circles under his eyes, it didn't come off as out of place.
Very well. Let's examine the spaces as thoroughly as we can. We'll also relay this idea to the other agents once they join us.
More agents? I'd rather not. But the agent, as if excited, went a step further.
Now that you're a temporary agent, we should call each other by code names. Do you have a preferred code name? Oh, we typically use historical materials for code names. Non-ordinary terms make it easier to distinguish between agents.
He's even letting me pick a code name? It felt like they were fulfilling every conceivable fantasy. Oh. Did I already have a code name I wanted to use for a Disaster Management Bureau agent in the Darkness exploration records I'd envisioned?